Okay, let's get everyone settled in. Welcome to today's session.
Thanks for having me. We have a lot to cover today.
We really do. We have a massive amount of ground to cover. Usually, we look at broad trends or historical events, but today we are pivoting to something incredibly immediate.
Right.
We are conducting a full deep dive into what is arguably the most significant security event in Mexico in over a decade. We're treating this sort of like a master class, a case study.
Yeah. And if you're taking notes at home, and you probably should be for this one, put today's date right at the top of the page. Sunday, February 22, 2026.
And the location?
Tapalpa, Jalisco, Mexico. The subject of today's class is the fall of Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes.
Better known to the world and certainly to law enforcement everywhere as El Mencho.
Exactly. The leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, or the CJNG.
Now, before we get into the weeds of the actual military operation, I want to frame this properly for you all. We aren't just reporting the news here today.
No, not at all.
We are treating this as an anatomy lesson, an analysis of a high-value target operation, and, more importantly, the geopolitical fallout that comes right after. Because this isn't just about one man dying in a shootout in the mountains.
No, it's about the potential destabilization of a multi-billion-dollar illicit empire.
Right.
And the immediate violence that is spilling across 15 Mexican states, literally as we speak. We are watching a massive power vacuum form in real time.
So let's unpack this. The core event happened yesterday. A major military mobilization in a region that has long been known as a stronghold for organized crime. And the bottom line result, El Mencho is dead.
It's a moment analysts have predicted and frankly feared for years. But we have to look at the cost of this.
It's high.
Very high. This wasn't a clean extraction. It wasn't some movie scene where the bad guy is quietly arrested in his sleep. It was a battle. We know that 7 National Guard members died in the line of duty.
Which is just a staggering number for a single operation. Usually when we analyze these raids in our deep dives, we see maybe 1 or 2 casualties on the government side, if any. 7 dead suggests something entirely different happened here.
It speaks to the absolute ferocity of the resistance. Mencho wasn't just hiding, he was heavily fortified. And there's another layer here we need to discuss immediately, which is the international component.
The U.S. involvement.
Right. Intelligence support was key here, specifically from United States agencies.
So the big question for today's class is, so what? Does killing the kingpin actually stop the violence? Or are we just looking at a classic Hydra effect where 2 heads grow back to replace the one you cut off?
That is the essential question of modern counter-narcotics strategy. But before we get to that strategic analysis, we need to understand the mechanics of the operation itself.
If you are enjoying this video, please watch it until the end. This greatly helps the channel and encourages us to continue our work.
So getting into the tactical overview, this wasn't just a local police raid where they somehow got lucky.
Right, let's break that down. Who was actually on the ground?
This was a massive projection of state power. It was a joint operation involving the Mexican Army, Sedena, the National Guard, the Air Force providing air cover, and specialized intelligence personnel from the Attorney General's office.
You mentioned the U.S. involvement earlier. How deep did that actually go?
It was very significant. There was tight coordination with United States agencies, specifically the Joint Interagency Task Force Counter-Cartel.
Okay.
They provided crucial planning data. It really highlights that despite the political friction we sometimes see in the headlines, the security apparatus between the 2 nations is still tightly linked behind closed doors.
Let's move to the engagement itself. Security forces enter the area in Tapalpa. And for those who don't know, Tapalpa is rugged.
Very rugged.
It's mountainous terrain. It's not an easy place to maneuver a large military convoy.
Exactly. And they immediately encountered heavy armed resistance upon entering the zone.
Which implies Mencho was well protected. He wasn't just sitting in a cabin by himself.
Heavily protected. His personal security ring was military grade. During the firefight, the target El Mencho was critically wounded at the site.
But he didn't die right there.
No. They actually managed to secure him and evacuate him by helicopter for treatment. They were likely hoping to keep him alive for intelligence purposes or just to have him stand trial, but he died en route to the medical facility.
Let's look at the balance sheet of this battle, because the human cost was incredibly high on both sides.
It was. On the cartel side, we have 7 confirmed fatalities, including Mencho himself, and 2 cartel arrests. They also seized armored vehicles, heavy weapons, and a lot of tactical equipment at the scene.
But the government losses 7 National Guard members killed.
Plus 3 soldiers injured. And the violence wasn't contained just to the extraction zone. We also have reports of a state prosecutor agent and a jail guard killed in related violence almost immediately after the operation started.
This is a high-intensity conflict.
Literal war zone for a few hours.
Okay, let's pivot a bit. To really understand the impact of this, we have to understand the target. Who was El Mencho? Because unlike some of the other figures we've studied in previous sessions, he wasn't exactly a celebrity.
That's a crucial distinction to make. Think about El Chapo, for instance.
Right. El Chapo was flashy.
Yeah.
He wanted the fame. He wanted the movie rights, the interviews.
Exactly. Chapo was almost a folk hero in a twisted way to some people. Mencho was completely different. He was 59 years old and actually a former policeman.
A former cop.
Yes, from the Tomatlan area. But here's a really interesting detail for his profile. He served time in the U.S. and California for heroin distribution back in the 90s before being deported back to Mexico.
Oh, wow. So he knew the U.S. justice system from the inside.
He did, and since he got back, he's basically been a ghost.
A militaristic ghost from the sound of it.
Exactly that. He built the CJNG not on charm or bribery alone, but on brute force and strict, almost military discipline. He was the most wanted target for both Mexico and the U.S.
The State Department had a huge bounty on him, right?
A $15 million reward on his head. That puts him in the absolute top tier of global targets.
Let's talk about the organization he built, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. To the casual observer, they seem to just appear out of nowhere about a decade ago.
It definitely felt that way, but they do have a lineage. They split from the Sinaloa Cartel, specifically a Milenio Cartel faction, around 2010.
After Ignacio Coronel died.
Yes, exactly. After the death of Nacho Coronel, Mencho took the remnants of that group and forged something completely new.
And new really is the key word here. What makes the CJNG brand different from the old-school cartels we usually hear about?
Extreme violence and actual military capability. I mean, do you remember 2015?
What's helicopter incident?
The helicopter. They shot down a Mexican military Cougar helicopter with a rocket-propelled grenade.
Which is insane.
It was a watershed moment. It was a first for a cartel. It signaled that they weren't just criminals smuggling drugs in the dark. They were a paramilitary force capable of challenging the state in open combat.
And they expanded incredibly fast after that.
Faster than any cartel in history. They operate in at least 22 states now. And this brings us to their business model, which is fascinating from an organizational behavior perspective.
You mean the franchise model. This is something I really want us to help the class understand today.
Yeah.
How does that work in practice?
Well, unlike the older hierarchical cartels where everything flowed from the top down, kind of like a traditional family business, CJNG operates much more like a fast food franchise.
Okay, break that analogy down for us.
So they go into a new territory, say a state like Guanajuato or Veracruz. They find a local gang that is already operating there.
Right.
And they say, look, you can use our brand, the CJNG name. You can use our logistics lines, our weapons, and our fear factor. But you work for us now, and you pay a percentage up to Jalisco.
Wow. So it allows for rapid expansion because they don't have to send thousands of their own troops to conquer every single city.
Precisely. It massively lowers the overhead of invasion, but it also creates a very volatile network.
Because you're relying on local guys.
Right. You have all these local affiliates who are now heavily armed but might not have the same discipline as the core leadership back in Jalisco. They are looser cannons.
And we can't ignore the hard assets either. They control the port of Manzanillo.
That is the absolute jewel in the crown. Control of Manzanillo means control of the Pacific entry point for precursor chemicals, the ingredients coming from Asia to make fentanyl and meth.
Which is a huge moneymaker.
That port is why they are a global powerhouse. Without that port, they are just a really violent local gang. With it, they are a multinational logistics firm.
Okay, so the head of this franchise is gone. What happened immediately after the news broke yesterday? Because the reaction on the ground was, well, explosive is an understatement.
We call it a code red. That was the official alert issued by Jalisco Governor Pablo Lemus Navarro. And what followed was a textbook example of a cartel counteroffensive.
Narcobloqueos.
Yes. Narcobloqueos. Blockades.
For those in the class who aren't familiar with the term, explain what that looks like on the ground. It's not just a traffic jam.
No, not at all. It's terror as a tactic. Cartel members hijack cargo trucks, city buses, private cars, whatever they can find. They force the drivers out at gunpoint, park the vehicles horizontally across all lanes of a major highway, and they set them on fire.
What's the strategic purpose of that? Is it just to cause chaos because they're angry?
It serves two very distinct purposes. One, Tactically, it physically blocks the roads to slow down military reinforcements. If the army can't get to you because there's a literal wall of burning semi-trucks in the way, you've bought yourself time to escape or hide evidence.
Makes sense. And the second purpose.
2, it causes mass panic. It completely freezes the civilian population.
And the scope of this yesterday was massive.
We're talking about reported incidents in at least 15 states. In Guadalajara alone, there were 20 active blockade points yesterday.
And the civilian impact was immediate.
Everything just stopped. Public transport in Guadalajara, the buses, the urban rail, all suspended. Imagine a major metropolitan area just grinding to a complete halt. People stranded, unable to get home from work or school.
And it wasn't just roads. I saw reports about the airports, too.
Right. Puerto Vallarta International Airport saw major cancellations. Southwest, Alaska, United, all canceling flights.
Was the airport itself attacked?
Not directly, no. But the staff and the passengers literally couldn't get to the terminal safely. The roads leading there were too dangerous.
And there were specific targets hit, right? It wasn't just random cars on the highway.
No, it was very targeted in some places. In Puerto Vallarta, social media showed a Costco and a gas station set on fire. In Guanajuato, there was looting and arson attacks on OXXO stores and banks.
That's terrifying.
It's a display of power. It's the cartel sending a message to the state saying, you might have killed our boss, but we can still burn your cities and ruin your economy.
The U.S. Embassy actually told citizens to shelter in place. That really drives home the severity of the situation.
It does. When you have 15 states lighting up simultaneously, you are looking at a national security crisis, not just a localized police action.
This brings us to the so what part of our lecture, the strategic analysis. We killed the kingpin. Mission accomplished, right?
If only it were that simple. This is where we have to discuss the Hydra effect.
Cut off one head?
And 2 more grow back. History has shown us, specifically in Mexico, that removing a top-tier leader often leads to fragmentation.
Right.
Instead of one large, somewhat predictable organization, you end up with 5 or 6 smaller, warring factions.
So violence might actually go up.
That is the historical trend. The discipline breaks down. Remember those franchises we talked about?
Right.
They might decide they want to go independent now. They stop sending money up to Jalisco. And then you have the inevitable succession crisis.
Who is next in line? Do we know who takes over the empire now that Mencho is gone?
There are a few candidates. The most likely is his stepson, Juan Carlos Valencia Gonzalez, who is known as El Pelon.
Okay.
But there are other senior lieutenants like El Jardinero who commands huge respect and a lot of territory.
And they might not exactly agree on who gets the throne?
Exactly. Signs of internal division were already present in the CJNG before yesterday. Mencho kept a tight lid on things through absolute fear. With him gone, this could easily trigger an internal civil war.
And what about the sharks circling on the outside? The rival cartels?
That's the other massive danger. The Sinaloa Cartel, they've been dealing with their own infighting lately, sure, but they might see this as the perfect opportunity to seize CJNG territory while they are distracted and weak.
So if CJNG is fighting itself?
Sinaloa moves in to take the ports and the routes.
And the sources for today's deep dive mentioned another group too, the Guasave Cartel.
Yes, they are essentially remnants of the old Beltran-Leyva organization. They are emerging actors in the broader conflict landscape. It just shows that the entire ecosystem is fracturing. We are moving away from a two-party system, Sinaloa and Jalisco, to a state of multipolar chaos.
It sounds like we are moving into a period of extreme instability.
I think a civil war within the cartel landscape is a very real, very immediate possibility.
I want to zoom out just a bit before we wrap up. We talked about how Mencho was militaristic. This operation really highlights how modern warfare has changed in this context.
Absolutely. The line between organized crime and actual war has blurred completely. We aren't seeing guys in pickup trucks with pistols anymore.
No.
We're seeing armored convoys, what they call monstros, these heavy homemade tanks.
Yo.
We are seeing rocket-propelled grenades, and increasingly the use of advanced technology.
Drones.
Drones for smuggling, yes, but also weaponized drones for attacks.
Dropping explosives.
Dropping explosives on rivals or police outposts, it's asymmetric warfare. And the recruitment process, it's on an industrial scale.
You're talking about the training camps?
Yes. The discovery of camps in Jalisco, some containing human remains. It shows they're forcibly recruiting and training people like soldiers. They're kidnapping young men and forcing them into service. This is an insurgency in all but name.
And we have to mention the commodity that fuels all of this, fentanyl.
The CJNG is a primary driver of the fentanyl flow into the U.S.
So does Mencho's death stop the fentanyl? I mean, that's what a lot of people listening probably want to know.
This brings us right back to the franchise model. Think about it. If you close down the corporate headquarters of a fast food chain, do the local branches stop selling burgers the very next day?
Probably not. They still have the supply lines. They still have the grills and the ingredients.
Exactly. The infrastructure is decentralized. The port of Manzanillo is still there. The labs in the mountains are still there. The smuggling routes across the border are still there.
Right.
The slow might hiccup for a few weeks due to the chaos, but it won't stop just because the CEO is dead.
That is a deeply sobering thought.
It's just the reality of the black market. As long as the demand exists and the physical infrastructure exists, the product will move. The only thing that really changes is the name of the person cashing the checks at the top.
So let's wrap up this case study for today. How would you summarize the situation for our class?
It is a tactical victory, without a doubt. The Mexican government, with vital U.S. cooperation, took down one of the most dangerous men on the planet. That matters. It proves no one is truly untouchable. It restores a sense of state authority in a region that desperately needs it.
But strategically?
Strategically, it is a moment of extreme, profound danger. We have created a massive power vacuum. The infrastructure Mencho built, the ports, the routes, the local franchises, remains totally intact, but now there is no one holding the leash.
So we are essentially trading a known evil for chaos.
In the short term, yes. The civilian population is bracing for the fallout as we speak.
I want to leave you all with a final provocative thought to consider as you go about your day. In this era of franchise model criminal organizations, does removing the CEO actually bankrupt the company? Or does it just promote the regional managers?
That's the real question, isn't it?
The violence we are seeing right now on the streets of Guadalajara and beyond, maybe it's not the end of the organization, maybe it's just the violent interview process for the new leadership.
A terrifying interview process where the resume is written in blood.
Indeed. We will continue to monitor this situation as it develops.
Stay safe, everyone.
If viewers enjoyed the video, they can subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell to be notified about new videos, click the like button, and share the video with their colleagues as this helps us maintain the channel. Thank you.